Your natty limit is probably way higher than you think. I'm saying this from my own experience being 18, 19, 20 and where I thought my natty limit was versus where now I currently think it is. I started training when I was 16 years old, and by the time I was 19 I thought I'd pretty much reached what was close to my natty limit at the time. I thought I was putting in maximal effort in the gym. I thought I was doing everything right from a training standpoint. I also thought that my nutrition at the time was at least 80 to 90% of the way there. And yet the more I was bulking, I felt like I was only getting fatter, and yet I was still lighter than most of my friends because I started out with a 120-pound frame. And so I was 19 and I'd been training for 3 years, and I thought this is essentially as good as my physique is going to get. And I'm gonna put a picture over this so you can see what I looked like at the time. And for comparison, this is what I've been able to achieve since. And so I'm 30 years old now, and in between there were many times where I quit, focused on sports, did other things with my life, but I'm making the best gains of my life currently, and I'm making more progress in the gym, more strength progress, and more muscle building progress than I've ever been able to make. So why is that? Well, what I couldn't have predicted and anticipated is just how much more now we know about building muscle than we knew back in 2013, 2014. Things that are common training knowledge now, like length and partials, or the amount of volume that you should put into your training, or how much you should focus and dedicate on side delts and rear delts versus front delts if you want big delt development. They were just not as common back then. When it comes to nutrition also, we were told to keep a clean diet of chicken breasts and rice and broccoli, and it was very easy to fall off the wagon once you just felt a slightly demotivated. If it fits your macros was kind of coming into the picture at that point, but it was relatively obscure, and most people followed traditional bodybuilding diets. They didn't have this common knowledge that if you just got a gram to a gram and a half per pound of body weight in protein and you filled the rest of your calories with varied foods, you'd be alright for the most part. Once you'd slip off the wagon and go off your diet, you'd felt like you completely lost so much progress that you had made. And this would lead to poor consistency in the gym as well, and beating yourself up mentally. And I think this is probably the most important point, is beating yourself up mentally. As I reach my mid-20s and late 20s, that's something I simply stopped doing. I stopped lifting for anybody else, and I also stopped beating myself up for any perceived mistakes or perceived mishaps or lack of consistency. And the ironic part of that is that all of that led to me being much more consistent and much more happy going to the gym, and basically has led to the best consistency and effort, sustained effort, that I've put in the gym in my life for the past 3 years. This also applied to PRs and strength in the gym. I'm 18, 19, expecting to hit a new PR every time I'm in the gym, and when I don't, I just beat myself over the head with that until I hit a new PR. Whereas now, I don't do that. I don't even really go for PRs anymore, but even if I do and I fail, I understand it's just part of the process. The process is never linear. It's always going to go like this. As long as the highs are a little bit higher across time than the lows are, then you're doing the right thing and you're progressing. And even sometimes you might have some pretty steep valleys, but as long as the peaks keep going up over time, you're good. You kind of over time get this bird's eye view of your own progress, where you're not so emotionally charged into the day-to-day, and you have this long, wide view and long-term picture. Now, perhaps some of you are able to do this at 18, 19, 20, and if you are, great on you, and you have the proper discipline. And maybe you were taught this kind of winning mindset by your parents from the get-go, but I think for a lot of people, it's something that you learn as you go along in your gym journey. If you're a teenager or in your early 20s watching this and you've been lifting for a couple of years, there's still tons of potential progress that you might be able to make that you're not even aware of and don't even realize yet, because you think you're doing all of the right things, but most likely you're not. And most likely, as you have the same experience I have, as we keep going along, there's going to be new things that are discovered, new optimal ways of training, and you're going to get a better and better grip over your discipline that's going to allow you to just break through the plateaus that you currently have. So stop focusing so much on the day-to-day. Try to apply a bird's eye view that lets you view where you were 2 years ago versus where you will be in the next 2 years or 5 years. All right, that's about enough yapping.